Hi, my name is Stephanie Flint, and I am the co-creator of Infinitas Publishing, and today I have a few different announcements before getting to the reading. Starting off with, last week and a half I had a Goodreads giveaway going for a copy of Magic Stealing, and yesterday that copy was chosen, and I have sent out the book in the mail, so that should be coming in about a week or so. Also, Isaac and I, for our company in general, we got our promo cards in the mail today, so I'm going to show off a few of them right here. Starting off with a couple of the cards from the Battle Decks Trials of Blood and Steel game. These are the trial versions, which basically look about the same, except they have the it says Trial Edition on them. We will be showing off at StealthCon, which is this February the 13th and 14th, and that will be at the University of Central Missouri in Warrensburg, Missouri. And essentially it's its first year. We're excited to be debuting the game there, and we'll have copies which includes characters from both the Prussian and the Britannian factions. And then we'll have a way to proxy the game so people can get a feel for how the game plays. Also, with that in mind, we've been working on putting together the rule book for the deluxe edition. We've already got the basic rules created for Battle Decks. However, we're currently in the process of, creating the different versions. So for the deluxe edition, we're going to do a nice little booklet, mostly because having 6 free-form pages of rules that are numbered, it gets really annoying after a while. So what we're doing is we're putting together a booklet, and the booklet will look something like, the pages in here. We're still tinkering with this. These are entirely proof, but these, individual pages are about what it will look like. Anyways, we're also, Isaac is currently working on the trial edition, the rule set for that, which will be fewer pages, and is going to be set specifically to say things regarding the trial edition, such as the fact that you don't actually choose which heroes you use in the trial edition, while you get to choose which heroes you use in the full set. And then we also have, of course, the basic edition, which is simply the cards. It will have the rules in them, but there won't be a fancy rules. Will be, just 1 or 2 documents, if all goes well. And also in the promo cards that we got today, we got cards for trying to work around the camera here. We got cards for Magic Stealing. This is what I'll be giving away when I do book signing type stuff, which I have my first book signing this Friday from 4 to 6 at Reader's World in Sedalia, Missouri. So I'm excited about that. It's coming up. So this is basically kind of like our bookmarks, but they're actual cards, to match the fact that we do both books and games. Anyways, we also have a couple cards for our promo cards for the company itself, Infinitas Publishing, and one of them is just a give some general information about the company itself, and the other gives the information like our email addresses and our sites where you can find us and stuff like that. So that's what we've come in today, what we've been scheduling for the next few weeks. We've been doing a lot of trying to get the game ready to go. We've been doing some beta testing with some people who are willing to, come and help us out at the table at StealthCon. So we're really excited about what's coming up, and we're really busy trying to get everything, finalized, polished, and ready to go. Which, as a side note, means you will also be seeing Battle Decks coming out, released, ready to go very, very soon. Which also includes a PDF version of the Trials of Blood and Steel, so there is a way to actually play it. And other news, that's pretty much it for now. However, I also have a reading, chapter, I believe, 11 of Magic Stealing, so I hope you enjoy it. Chapter 11. Night dawned all navy sky and glistening stars. Back at her family's manor, Joanna dressed in a heavy leather jacket and thick, loose pants. She pinned the raven brooch Darren bought her to the underside of her jacket, safe from harm. Then she pulled on her gloves and boots, and armed herself with a short sword. She wasn't sure what good that would do her, since the goddess said only shadow magic, glassstone, or directly inflicted ribbon magic, such as Darren's fireballs, would actually harm the living shadows. Either way, Tirana prepared the best she could and then returned to the seer's dwelling. Ifa had smothered the cottage in thick incense, which Tirana decided was more likely to cause hallucinations from asphyxiation than aid in time travel. After a minute of breathing the nasty air, she sat on the floor to escape the smoke and limber her muscles. As she stretched, Ifa explained that Tirana would arrive at the plateau at precisely the right time to save Darnan, so she wouldn't be sore from traveling. Of course, Tirana had to be thinking about precisely the right place and precisely the right time, or else she might end up in some other place and time entirely. It's really very simple, see? Ifa smiled brightly. Tirana gave the goddess a glare. Ifa sighed. Well, I suppose we'd best start. Wafts of thin smoke trailed around the golden fringes of her dress. Fetch the stone and set it between us. Tirana picked up the cotton-wrapped stone from the shelf. Little ribbons of magic, silver with black edges, flitted within the bundle. She swallowed uneasily. The stone contained immortal magic. You really think I can get this to work? Tirana asked. If she successfully went back in time, she might catch the attention of the trickster, which was never a good thing. Ifa flipped her hand dismissively. Dear, you have magic from myself and Danon. If any mortal can make this work, you can. Not that you qualify as a mortal nowadays, but I digress. You must try. Us lower deities are in danger. What about the high gods? Tirana narrowed her eyes. If the minor gods were in danger, that explained Ifa's involvement. But perhaps there was more. Those gods are safe for now. But if Lord Minshtatil works his way through the lower Khan and Pantheon, then the wishing blade may be strong enough for Asana to thwart the more powerful gods. She paused. Even Medaya is concerned, if you must know. If the trickster branches into the islands or crosses the sea to the eastern lands, there is no telling how quickly he could rise. Hold on a moment. Tirana raised her hand for Ifa to stop. Asana could actually harm Medaya? If he gains enough power. Tirana's blood ran cold. If Asana managed to kill Medaya, he'd have control of death magic. He really could manipulate mortals like puppets, or make magic act of its own accord. She let out a slow breath. How does Darnan fit into all this? Ifa fidgeted under her silky dress and cast her gaze on the empty vases around the room. It is imperative that Darnan lives. Tirana raised an eyebrow. The goddess wasn't telling her something, but she doubted she could weasel out an answer. Before I go, is there anything I should know about Kafresh and his wishing sword? The wishing blade. Avoid it. Whosoever bears the blade may speak or intend their wish by thought, and that wish shall likely come true. Maybe not as intended, but the magic of the blade will set the proper events into motion. Lord Minshtatil stabilized his shadow realm by using that blade, overrode the order of stream magic, and offset his realm from this one. His realm? Tirana's shoulders sagged. Never mind. If someone takes the wishing blade, can they wish that these events never happened? Ifa's eyes went wide. No! Don't do such a thing. Using the Shodaka trial is bad enough. The stone allows adjustments directly to the strings of our universe. If you try to reweave them too many times, they become loose. Frayed. The realm could unravel. Her breathing was quick and nervous. You've heard of the Constant? Tirana scowled. Kind of hard to miss the neighboring kingdom. But you've heard the tales. Ifa stepped forward, her doe eyes wild, fearful, and a tad overdramatic for Tirana's liking. Vaguely. No one can leave the Constant if they go past the division. The divide, Ifa corrected. Whatever. Point is, don't unwish time-related incidents using the wishing blade, use the Chodaka trial sparingly, and don't go to Le Constant. Got it. The sooner they got this over with, the sooner she could forget that Asana was involved. With the wishing blade's power, these realms could be irreparably altered. With the Shodaka trial... Ifa swallowed nervously. I'll keep a grip on your magic to ensure you make it back to the present. Tirana shivered. Someone powerful must really want Tiernan alive. She'd never heard of the gods going to such extremes to get one person back. She sighed. Might as well get this over with. What do I need to do? Follow my commands. Ifa cast the cotton from the stone. Hypnotic swirls of rainbow light floated beneath the glass. Tirana resisted the urge to look deeper into the Shodaka Chal, to test the depths of its vision and see what lay ahead and before in time. She pinched the skin between her thumb and forefinger. She would not give in to magic's lure. Ifa cracked her knuckles and then twisted her fingers through the air as if picking the strings of a harp. Strands of magic twirled around her hand. Thin ribbons expanded outward, flying faster and faster until they were a horizontal tornado of light. Blue lightning crackled round the circle, then jetted outward in a singular blast. The force sent Tirana flying across the room. Aoife remained standing, her light hair and dress flapping around her. Tirana picked herself up from the broken glass. She staggered to her feet and shielded her eyes. "Careful," Aoife warned. "If you look directly into the portal without a destination in mind, you might find yourself in some other place and time, caught in magic far stranger than I can deal. If you must look, look to the edges. Try not to look to the future, only to the past." Tirana scowled. This would have been nice to know before Aoife opened the portal. "Come this way." Aoife extended her hand. Tirana edged around the blinding magic until she stood beside the goddess. The stone called to her, silent. She braced herself against the wall, feeling the warm metal of the brooch's pin against her chest. "I'm coming for you, Darnan." "Now what?" she asked. "Think of exactly where you want to be. Picture the precise moment." Aoife paused. "Do you have the place imagined?" Tirana nodded, though her mind brimmed with every other crazy magical thing Aoife had mentioned in the past few hours. "Keep picturing that place, that time, and walk directly into the portal. Do not stop until you are physically there. The same process should be done coming back, provided you are conscious." Provided she was conscious? This kept getting better. Tirana took a deep breath. With a picture in mind, she walked into the blazing light. The world turned upside down and right side up. Tirana struggled to remember where she was going. Though she crammed her eyes shut, her eyelids blazed red from the penetrating light. The mountain forge, the plateau, right after she and Darnan started up the pass. Sunlight warmed her skin. She opened her eyes, then screamed. An endless white void stretched on, no top, no bottom. She was flailing, falling, slamming into her thoughts. There was her sister in starlight, and the handsome guardsman who never knew she watched him practice, and the creepy footsteps treading through the attic, and Darnan as a shaggy dog, and Darnan racing her across the field, and Darnan as bleeding corpse. "The mountain forge! Remember the forge!" Aoife cried. Tirana clamped her hands over her eyes as she was pummeled by the tearing, gasping winds. "The cave! Remember the cave where you were attacked!" Tirana seized Aoife's mental image and tumbled from the whirlwind. Her elbows and knees slammed against the hard rock of the cave floor. Damp mud seeped through her clothes. She keeled over, clutching her churning stomach. Faded voices murmured nearby. She opened her eyes. The cave entrance lay behind her. Kafrash held the wishing blade extended at arm's length. Sunlight wavered through him, but Tirana was caught by the sight of herself and Darnan, only minutes before Darnan would die. She rested her hand on her sword scabbard, testing the coarse leather under her fingertips. Shy of being a distraction, she needed something else, something more potent, something she could actually attack with. Her magic would be useless. She didn't have Darnan's skill with fire, and the glassstone knives were too carefully concealed for her to lift one off the nearest shadow, the shadows who awaited their orders in a semicircle behind Kafrash. But their shadow weapons were clear of fancy buckles and clasps, free for the taking. Darnan once taught her how to pick a pocket, though he swore he never used that particular skill. Now it might save his life. She held her breath as she carefully lifted the blade from the shadow's side. The metal clawed at her skin like grabbing ice with no gloves. She tested the weight of the freezing blade in her hand, then drove it into the shadow's back. He collapsed. Before the others could react, she spun and ducked, weaving as she hit the two shadows on either side. Past Darnan and past Tirana froze. They stared at her blurred movements. Then she slipped up beside Kafrash and wrapped her hand around the hilt of the wishing blade. "Run," she commanded. Whether because of the blade or because of her own magic, her past self and past Darnan fled past the shadows and down the slippery, rocky path to the plateau. Their iridescent blue and green ribbons danced along the mountainside. Her breath caught in her throat. They'd be safe. Darnan would live. He'd actually... Kafrash grabbed her wrist and pulled her toward him. She yelped, caught off balance. He wrenched the shadow knife from her hand and drove the blade toward her chest. She tried to twist out of its path, but a sharp, icy pain split through her side. He let go of her wrist. Her knees buckled. She collapsed to the ground, clawing at loose rock. A cloudy essence slipped over her eyes. The mist world around her came into focus. She shivered, freezing. When she looked up, she found Kafrash standing over her, bearing a shadow blade. The knife dripped with crimson blood, which was quickly turning to silver.